Aloha, guys. Thank you for joining us here with Healing with Aloha Podcast. I'm the host, Deslynn Jaquias. On this podcast, we talk about grief, we talk about mental health, we talk about healing, and we also talk about living your life with passion. Today's guest I have is Jason Latas, and he is of quantum body performance coaching. He has been an adventure for 3 decades. That's the Listen, okay. He has personally guided many, it sounds so old. He has personally guided many Fortune 500 CEOs and major business owners on custom adventures across the globe. He also personally coaches many traveling entrepreneurs to help them stay mentally and physically fit while traveling and running their businesses. He enjoys helping people feel good in their skin again and perform better in their personal and business lives. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Jason. Aloha, Jason.
Aloha, thank you so much, Des. Cool, mahalo for having me on today.
You're welcome. The one thing that I wanted to share that we both have in common is, so I'm on the island of Kauai. I was born and raised here, but we both, not at the same time, we both actually lived on Maui.
Yes, and I miss it tremendously.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what is this quantum body, and what led you down this?
Well, it's interesting, and that's such a big question. So feel free to cut me off if I go too long. But as we've discussed in the past, when I was a child, I could see energy and I could see auras, and also what I called at the time angels. Right. And be able to communicate. And with that, it really changed my view of the world. My fiance Joy has really helped me understand that. She goes, "You don't understand." I'm like, "How can people not see this?" She goes, "You don't understand. You see things very differently." Shortly out of high school, as you know, I was meditating and I had my first experience of actually popping out of my body and observing myself from above. Well, when I did that, afterwards, you can imagine I'm 18, right? I'm still young, I'm still learning. And I realized afterwards, as I was ruminating on it, there were no eyeballs up there. The eyeballs were in my body. So who's the observer? And that's when I really started looking at the world from a totally different standpoint and seeing things. And I'm fascinated how everything around us is made of energy. Once you learn to see auras and things like that, it changes the way you interact with things and view things. So after I moved to Maui, I actually became a personal trainer because I was always into fitness and people were always asking me to help them get fit. So I studied more, became fascinated with how our body works. And as I got more and more into it, I started my adventure company in Maui, and that put me in front of thousands of people, not just from my little town wherever I was from, but people from all over the world, different cultures. Every shape, size, color, type of person you can imagine. So now I became fascinated with people, really, like what makes them tick? Why can I ask 10 different people the same question and I get 10 different answers?
Right.
So that's when I started getting into understanding the brain and programming your central nervous system and how we were programmed as children and how everybody is completely, even though we're born into a very similar body, we're programmed completely differently by our caregivers. So in my 30 years of coaching, where I'm going is really, I take it from not only an energetic level to a biological level for health, but also your brain and your central nervous system. So I find myself, when I was younger, I did more personal training and things like that, of course, lots of energy. And it moved to custom adventures, where I traveled, globally with different people. And I've been to Africa and climbed Kilimanjaro a couple of times, one of my favorite places on earth. But I do a lot more regulation work now with people. It seems like anxiety is rampant. And so I'm finding myself now incorporating everything because, of course, getting healthier helps you. Understanding your brain helps. Understanding your central nervous system, which is what regulates your anxiety. Once you understand these things, I like to help people that are dysregulated kind of find balance, become more regulated, and seek that peaceful homeostasis state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and it's healing. And so
Yes.
basically you said like a lot of times people can be imbalanced, and
Yes.
so teaching them tools and how to get themselves to be balanced, because we're in an imperfect world and things are coming up, and we're constantly bombarded with the news and just everything that is bad, that it reinforces anxiety within us, and then it can lead to us feeling depressed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, can you tell us like why it's important for us to be aware when we become imbalanced? And what do you recommend, like tools? I mean, I know there's a lot.
Well, that's where I was going. Yeah, and that's how I don't have a 10-step program. I don't believe anybody's broken. I believe we're all whole and perfect. We just have some scars and some calluses that we need to deal with. And that's really bringing you back to balance. And we live in such a crazy world. It seems like every year now, it just gets crazier. And we won't get into that side of things because that's another rabbit hole. But people get depression and anxiety, PTSD, a couple of the words we hear more and more of now. It's really people being dysregulated and out of homeostasis or balance, right?
Yeah.
And you've probably heard the saying, they say it's a Buddhist saying, but it goes back thousands of years. If you're depressed, you're living in the past. You're focused on the pains of your past, hoping they won't reoccur again, or you're replaying those movies in your head, right? So that depression is keeping you in that pain, place. Generally, when you're in anxiety, you're worried about a future that hasn't happened yet. So depression, you're living in the past. Anxiety, you're living in the future. You're not even present. And so that's where a lot of the dysregulation comes in. A lot of anxiety isn't what's happening to me right now. It's I'm really worried about what's going to happen tomorrow or in the next 10 minutes, or it's trying to figure out the future. And that's your imagination. Mark Twain said it best. He said, I had so many stressful events and in my life, thank God most of them were in my imagination, and it's true. If you think about it, most of our anxieties were stressed about what's going to happen.
Yes.
Well, we don't have any control over that. So it's kind of letting go of control and understanding that my power is being here right now. So when people are in depression or in anxiety or both, I try to help them find tools depending on their unique situation to bring them back here. And that's where, like you mentioned, meditation is tremendous.
Yeah, and you do a lot of breath work.
Yeah, well, breath work's interesting. The tears, when we have trauma, the tears that we don't shed are shed by our organs. So we're taught to just suck it up, buttercup. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You're on stage, put on your mask, and that's okay. Because sometimes you're in front of your children. You need to be somewhat regulated. You need to go to work. But when you're not around your children or you're not at work, you need to take the time to regulate, to experience,
to let go,
to allow. Let go and allow. Because when we hold that in, emotions, I like to look at emotions as children. They're in our body, they're in our muscles, they're in our organs. Half of the disease, which is just dis-ease in your energetic body, is from that dysregulation. And breath work, I found, really helps start to bring those emotions up. Even someone who's never done breath work with me before, we start to do it, they start getting tears, and I have to remind them, don't try and figure out what it is.
Yeah.
What's that?
Don't be scared.
Yes, don't be scared, but don't try and figure it out. Just let it come up. Let it come up. And emotions are like children. They need your attention. But if they get just shushed off, come back later, they will come back louder and at a way more inopportune time. And if you don't deal with them, they will keep coming back until it becomes disease. And so with the breath work, once we do that, I teach them how to allow, really, as the emotions come up, send them love, thank them for the experience, and let them go. But
Wow.
don't try to judge them or figure them out. There's nothing worse than your 14-year-old daughter coming to you and you judge her and tell her what she's thinking. How well does that work?
And it doesn't.
You'll be safe. They'll go right back into your, liver or wherever they're stored. And if you can learn to thank them, appreciate them, and let them go, it's just like a child that gets hurt on the playground. You give them a hug and tell them, "Oh my gosh, high five, that was amazing." They run off and play. If you get all freaked out about it, they get freaked out. So it's the same thing. Emotions are children. And if you just appreciate them, love them, and let them go, they'll go play and they'll leave you alone.
I wanted to I've never had someone explain it in that way, and I think it's beautiful.
Hope it made sense.
No, it makes sense. The suck it up part, I can relate, because sometimes people they don't like to see you in pain.
Yeah.
And so it's easier for them to expect you to just like act like you're okay. But if you're not okay, like you said, and you don't feel safe to be able to release that part of you, you get backed up.
Yeah.
Well,
that's just it. You get backed up and you get that clogged emotions. And that's why in my work, I remind people, if you start to cry, please let it go. Let it go. You're in a safe place. Cry. That's the most beautiful way to cleanse, that waterfall on your face that's just clearing and cleansing. But as soon as you try to judge it and figure it out, they close back up again. Little snail comes out of the shell. It's like poking them on the antenna. They go back inside.
Yeah.
You gotta allow. And if you continue to allow, and then that's where I explain more in my personal work about the central nervous system, what's happening in your body right now, right? Once you understand that, you're able to go, oh, and allow it to happen. You're not trying to figure it out. And then we go into a meditation where we can drop into a lower brainwave and actually start to rewrite that program and let it go. So it's a whole healing process.
Yeah. And I think like healing I had spoken to another guest, it's learning. It's an ongoing process. Yeah. And like what we talked about, a lot of times people just want this quick fix and just be done with it. But then the reality is life happens and things pop up, and learning more about yourself. One of the things that I appreciate that you shared is having self-integrity and really being committed to loving yourself, because we can be so committed to taking care of everybody else, and we weren't taught how to take care of ourselves. Can you explain to people the value of self-integrity?
Most everything. We were only taught our caregivers or our parents' belief systems, right? And how they dealt with it. And for my case, my parents go all the way back to farmers and pioneers, where if you didn't walk with a permanent limp, you didn't work hard enough in your life and didn't get respect, right? And so I came from a really hard background. My dad could be building something and hit his thumb with a hammer, and he'd just look at it and, and suck it up, right? Yeah. And so as a child, I was taught that, big boys don't cry and be tough and all of these things. And it does. It raises us in their belief systems, not ours. And so we really never get to know ourselves. And that's a whole nother course I teach, because we aren't ourselves. That's why oftentimes we're like, man, I got a beautiful house, a beautiful family, 3 beautiful kids. I'm not happy. Why am I not happy? And it's because you don't even know who you are. You are still trying to please your parents, who might not even be on this earth plane anymore. We're
Yeah.
still trying to please them. We're still trying to be that child who's pleasing the parents, and it dysregulates us. And as we get into, hey, I know it's a long answer. I'm horrible with short answers.
Oh no, I'm listening. I enjoy this.
It's every cell in our body has intelligence, right? And your cells listen to you. Your DNA is programmable and it's reprogrammable, but it's programmed by that inner child when you were learning these things as a child. And that's why we repeat patterns. Oftentimes we repeat patterns that are based upon our childhood behaviors. But in the self-integrity part, oftentimes we make promises to other people and we don't follow through, or we make promises because we're under pressure just to kind of get out of the situation, and we never follow through. That's integrity to others. But your cells have intelligence. They're listening to you. They're wondering why you promised this and you're not following through. Also with the fad diet, with the, whatever I just bought on Instagram and it's going to fix me by Thursday.
Yeah.
Buy it and I set it aside and I don't do it. Well, we get excited in that moment, right? And whenever you get excited, your cells are always listening to you, but excitement is what programs them. And so when you get excited about something, they get excited. When you don't follow through, they wonder why. Well, they're always listening. You're the CEO of this corporation. You're the captain of this boat. You're the god of these planets, these cells, however you want to look at it. They listen to you. And so if you keep saying, I'm going to do this tomorrow, I'm going to do this tomorrow, I'm going to do this tomorrow, pretty soon you don't feel very good about yourself because you keep, well, I'll use the word, you keep lying to yourself.
Right.
And your cells are no different than employees. And the CEO keeps saying, we're going to have a company party. We're going to do this. We're going to paint. We're going to change the building. We're going to do all these great things to grow the company and everybody gets a raise. Well, it never happens. So after a while, the employees don't trust you anymore. So integrity is your cells not trusting you. Self-integrity, your cells start, that dysregulates. You're no longer congruent. So you're not congruent. Your thoughts and your cells are no longer congruent. You start to find that separation of mind, body, spirit. And that's where self-integrity, will dysregulate you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. And I think it's important because we were talking about like the healing and when you're dealing with things in your life, to really love yourself and have integrity to yourself, that you do have to be willing to say no to people.
Yes.
And sometimes you can feel like you're disappointing, you're betraying them, you're whatever's. But then if you can't love yourself enough to have the ability to say no to people, to commit to things that you don't even want to do,
I know.
You know what I mean? Then you end up hurting yourself.
Well, no is taken on kind of a bad connotation. Saying no is a negative. No is not a negative. No's yes is and no. There's no such thing. Yin and yang. And if you really look at that balance, it can't all be yes.
Yeah.
You can't accomplish it. You know what I mean? So when you give 100 yeses, but only accomplish 10 of them, your self-integrity is off. Your integrity is off. Your balance is off. And that's where people need to understand that it's okay to say no. No just means maybe I don't have time.
Right.
I don't have time in my schedule right now. And that's okay. No is okay. And it's the boundaries. They always talk about boundaries make children feel safe. But it makes us feel safe too, because if we go to bed at night knowing there's no way I can accomplish all of these things I've made promises for and to myself, and I'm going to lose 30 pounds by Thursday. Oh my gosh, what's that? That's anxiety. Now you're going off on your future that you have said yes to that you can't accomplish. So you've just created your own anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah. And
and a lot of times we don't realize that because maybe we weren't allowed to say no as children.
Exactly.
Right?
Like our parents, caregivers.
they tell us our caregivers tell us, when I tell you to do this, you don't tell me no, you do it, right? And so, depending who you are and like how you were taught, we can be that way as adults. But then it's like, oh, like you said, you're the CEO of your body, and being able to, as much as you want to people please, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
You create that anxiety because you fear like, they're gonna think whatever you want, that you think, you fear they think badly of you, whether it's at work, whether it's in your family, in your relationships and whatnot. And there's that dysregulation. And so even for me, it's like, I've been able to say no and let go of commitments to things that I want to do it, but I have a desire to focus on other things, and it's okay.
It's okay.
And it's okay.
And that's where the term often gets overused or misunderstood is, if you want to change the world, you got to start here.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to change this. You've got to allow this. You've got to allow yourself to regulate, because you can't, the term that's used a lot here in Utah is my bucket's empty, because I keep giving out all my everything to everyone else, and then it's empty and there's nothing left for me.
Mm-hmm.
And you become empty. So, and now let's not say don't help anyone, because of course that's very fulfilling and there's an energetic exchange, but it's finding, once again, and I know I do this a lot, but I was trained in the martial arts at a young age, and it was really just finding that balance, the mind, body, spirit balance. And when you can start to bring that back, and that's why I use the term dysregulation. When you get triggered, you dysregulate. And you respond from that childhood place, as we've spoken about in the past. I won't get into now because we don't have time, but once you understand how your program was written by a child, right? And how that programmed your brain, your neural pathways, and how those are automatically tied into your central nervous system. Once you kind of understand how all this works, you can kind of go, you know what I mean? You can learn these little life hacks, and these little ways to go, oh, okay. You mean if I just breathe from my nose to my belly button, deep breaths, it's going to calm my central nervous system, which is going to calm my brain. And that's why 10 deep breaths from your nose to your belly can calm you down, But once you understand, you hear it so often, just breathe, that it's almost annoying, like, stop telling me to breathe. But when you understand, oh, that's what it does. Oh, okay, cool, I'll breathe, because now I know. It's like telling a kid to do something, but never telling them why.
Yes.
Once I explain to my clients how it works, they go, oh my gosh, that makes sense. And the funny thing is, a lot of those anxieties and depressions take care of themselves, because you start to self-regulate, you start to understand what's happening in here. We were just never taught these things.
Yeah, the ability to be present.
Yes.
At this moment. I've had to learn to when I start feeling anxiety about the future for whatever reason, right? My son, life and whatnot. And I've learned that if that pops up, whatever happens, then we'll deal with it. But it hasn't happened yet.
Well, a great practice is to remember some of your stressors. We have them every day, but what was that horrible thing you imagined was going to happen and catch on fire and ruin your life? And 99.9% of the time, it never happened. And so that was just wasted energy. And that's why, your energy needs to be right here. We've all heard be in the now. It's like, it's just cliche now. It's like, okay, whatever. What does that even mean? Be in the now. You're just saying it because you saw it on TikTok. But it's once you understand, your power is here. If look at a pie chart, if 60% of my energy is in depression, it's in the past. It's all in the past. So my energy is being drained from right now to the past. I got another 20% of my energy freaking out about the future, That's being drained into the future. So I've only got like 20% of my energy right now. We wonder why stress, PTSD, anxiety makes us exhausted. It's because we're wasting energy on our imagination. The past is a vapor. It's done. It's not going to happen again. It's gone. But if we have a ton of energy there, the future hasn't happened yet. It's your imagination. You might as well imagine something good. If you're going to make it up, why don't you make up good stuff? And that's why we're sitting here running on 20-30% of our energy. If we stop focusing on this and bring energy here, and we stop focusing on this side and bring the energy here, we become more whole, and we automatically have more natural energy, life force energy.
Yeah, and I think, for us and our listeners, like it's more beneficial for us to be whole and to be centered.
And it's better for everybody else when we're whole.
Yes. I did this post about how it's a gift to others. Like when like when we work on ourselves, like when we heal ourselves, it's a gift to others. And it's like, what does that mean? It's like, when you take the time to really like and love yourself and do the work to heal, then a healed person heals others too. You know what I mean?
Your presence, what you radiate. I work with different sales teams, teaching them how they cellularly communicate to people, teaching them how to not to sell, how to communicate with integrity. Because someone can walk into a room and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to meet them. They're just full of energy. Doesn't mean they're all, they might be calm, didn't say a word, but you're just like, man, you got a really cool vibe. Right? Or someone walks in and you're like, oh my gosh, and they bring the energy of the room down, but you feel it. Okay. So think about how you react. If you walk into a room completely depressed, you're not raising the energy of that room. Our cells communicate constantly at a distance. Our heart, our electromagnetic field, and I'm not going to talk about it like foo-foo energy. You can measure it in a hospital. They can measure your brain waves electrically. They can measure the magnetic resonance of your heart. These are real things. So if you take a magnet into a room, other magnets are either attracted to it or rejected by it, depending on its north or south pole. You're no different. So if you walk into a room or you're in someone's presence and you're trying to help them, if you're completely depressed and drained, how much help are you going to be to your friend who's sad? If you are regulated and your energy is balanced, you just being in their presence will raise their energy. We're all batteries. It's amazing. And when our battery's full, we fill other people's batteries.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I just think that it's important for us to learn how to regulate when we feel deregulated, and I think it's okay for us to be human, and we're gonna be deregulated, and there's gonna be things that happen, but learning how to find our way back.
It's true. Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted you to share that we talked about recently is that 1% change.
Yes. Well, I like to use the example. Archimedes said, give me a lever long enough and I can move the earth. Because if I have a lever this long, I'm not going to be able to lift that car. But if I have a lever that's, a quarter mile long, once you lift it, at the end of that lever, you can move tremendous. You have tremendous leverage, really, is what you have. And as I said to you, if I'm in Utah now, and if my plane takes off from here and it's 1 degree off, well, 1 degree, big deal. If I'm flying to Salt Lake City, no big deal. I'll still get there. But if I'm flying to Maui, I'm going to miss the islands completely. And that works in 2 different ways. I can miss my course, or if I'm looking to make change, if I make a 1 degree change, well, yeah, it's not going to be like someone trying to sell me that beautiful box of red pills that'll, have me lose 30 pounds by Thursday, because we're so used to being sold things for immediate change. Well, if it took me 30 years to get here, have some patience with yourself. If you make that 1 degree change, as long as you stay on course over time, that's an enormous change. A year later, oh my gosh, and then once that, within 30, 60 days or even sooner, that can become a habit. Make another small change. If you consistently just make small changes, really small changes, in 2 years, you're a completely different person, radically different person. And people are like, oh my gosh, what'd you do? They're like expecting that you bought some magic program or magic pill. Well, no, I just made very small, comfortable changes. But I stayed with it, which is back to the self-integrity. I stayed integrous to myself. I made a promise to myself and I kept it.
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate you sharing that, because having that integrity to yourself, being willing to make small changes, and going against what everybody says, like, oh, you have to big impact, big this, big that.
I know.
But like how you said, like, small changes move the needle, and it can go a long way. And everybody is constantly having to make decisions, but like realizing what is that one small decision that's going to help you to learn how to regulate yourself. Because if you cannot navigate yourself, and who do you think you are trying to navigate other people, how to live their lives and whatnot? But being aware how to do that for themselves. Can you tell people how is the best way for them to connect with you? I know you're in Utah, but
I'm in Utah.
Do you do stuff virtually also sometimes?
Yeah, I Zoom just like this. I do more and more. Well, ever since COVID, this has become a normal way to coach. So I coach a lot of people on Zoom, in person if you're here. But of course, some of my clients are across the globe. So it's amazing how Zoom has allowed me to coach, globally now. And then I also have courses, and I also have some courses that I used to do live that a lot of people have asked me, because they can't make that course, is to package it. So I'm going to be packaging a lot of these courses.
Nice.
But really a great way to reach out to me. Find me on Instagram, just my name, Jason Latas, JASONLATAS. You'll find me, Jason Latas, Quantum Body. My website is Jason Latas, but I prefer the social interaction. Find me on Instagram, hit me up, and we'll chat, and see if it's a fit. And that's how I get most of my clients, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I'm so thankful to have met you. I think we need to be able to learn how to heal and to help maintain and manage ourselves, because like we talked about earlier, is like the world is constantly in motion and things are happening. But what you want people to understand is that, like, have integrity and love yourself, and to be able to know that, yes, you were taught these things, how to live and how you can change it and be able to go about it differently.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is you're in Kauai, so you can more easily than some of the people on the mainland get out in nature. But honestly, as often as you can, it can be as simple as taking off your shoes and walking in the grass, and that's grounding. I won't get into that, but that helps tremendously. Breathing, grounding, and interact with nature as much as you can, because nature is where we find balance. Nature is balance. And so when we spend time in it, our energy starts to match that energy. And, it's beautiful.
No, it is. And I think grounding is important, and we need to be grounded, because we're not going to always be able to control the outside, but internally we can start making ourselves aware and grounding ourselves. You know what I mean? And so
we were taught to try and control everything out there, and really control this. And when this changes, that'll change. You're the projector of your world, and work on the projector, and you're going to change the movie.
And that's a great way to end it. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Get to know Jason. I have the information for you to get to know and connect with him. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Healing with Aloha. Guys, have a great day. Aloha. Thanks, Jason.
Mahalo nui.